This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
So one hell of an update today with Luis Ortiz, who him and his trainer are real angry about the fact that his team managed to mess up the Anthony Joshua fight. So he's lost out on millions. I mean, I don't know if it's still salvageable. Don't know. But at this stage, you would imagine probably not. But who knows? Who knows? But either way, Luis Ortiz and his trainer are angry because not only have they lost out on millions, but a world title opportunity. Because his team have been speaking for him on his behalf without his consent. These guys are trying to make deals without keeping Luis Ortiz in the loop. And his trainer as well. And so yesterday I did a video with Jay Jimenez, and I'll put a, well, it'll pop up at the end of this video. Okay, so make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and give that one a watch too, just so that you're up to speed with everything. So Jay Jimenez, he spoke to the Boxing Voice yesterday, and he gave his versions of why the fight fell apart, and he's blaming a promoter for telling him that Eddie Hearn was lowballing Luis Ortiz with an offer. Now, apparently we're hearing that it was around about $5 million, but Eddie Hearn actually said, actually, it's more than $5 million. Now, Luis Ortiz and his trainer, when he found out that it was $5 million, just even $5 million, he's like, you take that money, okay? But Jay Jimenez was taking the word of the promoter. As I said, we didn't know who the promoter was. When he kept saying promoter, a promoter is telling him that this whole thing was a gimmick just to try and use Luis Ortiz's name, as if Anthony Joshua would need to do that, okay? But this is what the promoter is telling Jay Jimenez. Jay Jimenez is telling then Luis Ortiz, or we presume. So he's taking the word of this promoter. So we didn't know who this promoter was. I thought that when he said promoter, I told him that it's all a gimmick. I thought he was talking about Eddie Hearn, because I didn't know that Luis Ortiz had a promoter. Because quite clearly, I mean, I've never seen anything where Luis Ortiz is being promoted. I've never really seen it. So I think that there's probably a cog in the wheel somewhere who's on the payroll who quite clearly isn't doing a great job for Luis Ortiz. And it's the promoter. Or, at least from the outside looking in, that's what it appears. Now, the promoter, which, so this is a double one right here. We found out who the promoter is, and the promoter put in a statement as well, which we'll get into. Then we'll get into the reaction of the trainer from Luis Ortiz, who's not very happy at all. Anyway, so the promoter's name is Jorge Carmenate, and he works for Dade Promotions. And this is what he had to say. After 5 days of BS, we declined all of Hearn's lowball offers, and we are tired of his games. I know the magnitude of this fight. I wasn't going to let Hearn bully me, especially when I know they need Luis. I mean, who else could they really have to fight and that the public was willing to pay for? So that is Jorge Carmenate's statement, the promoter. Okay, so now we know who the promoter was, and now we know why Jay Jimenez put out that message on social media saying Eddie Hearn lowballed us, etc., because he took the word of Jorge Carmenate. So it's Jorge Carmenate who dropped the ball, and Jay Jimenez, when he spoke about this, he said that the promoter, as in Jorge Carmenate, told him that DAZN, Eddie Hearn, has an open checkbook. So let's hold back on these offers. We can get a whole lot more for Luis. In other words, Jorge Carmenate wanted more money. He was thinking about himself. And quite clearly with his own statement right here, where he's saying that I wasn't going to let Hearn bully me. Well, it's got nothing to do with you, because this is all about Luis Ortiz, your client. The guy, well, I say your client, the guy who employs you. A guy who could fire you tomorrow. Okay? So everything is not about you. If you feel intimidated by Eddie Hearn, tough luck. Tough luck. This is your job. Quite clearly, he's taking it personal. But 5 million, well, Eddie Hearn said it was more than 5 million. Is more than enough money for Luis Ortiz. Okay, and Jay Jimenez is quite distraught by it all as well. I'm sure that maybe he feels responsible for some of this, because he also didn't keep Luis Ortiz and his trainer in the loop as well, and I'm sure that he's regretful of this. Now, Jay Jimenez is a real nice guy. I know some people don't like him, but me personally, I like him. And I feel that he's become the in-between man in all of this. Now, we're going to get into the statement from Luis Ortiz, trainer. But it just seems to me that the promoter either messed it up, got greedy, or is being told by maybe a PBC or Al Heyman to make sure this fight don't happen because we want the in-house fight with Deontay Wilder. I'm not saying that has happened. I'm saying that it's a possibility. Now, Herman Caicedo, I think I just messed that up. Caicedo, yeah, Herman Caicedo, who is a trainer of Luis Ortiz. Anyway, he's put out a statement. In fact, it's a double statement. So I'll get into the first one first, and this is what he had to say. Everything about the way all of this was handled was a mess. It's how it played out, and it is what it is. Everyone had a little truth in everything that's being said, and a lot of things that aren't quite true. So that was his opening statement. So he's saying that there are some guilty parties in all of this, and there's a lot of things that's being said that aren't true. And what he's saying is about Jay Jimenez. Now, Jay Jimenez, the words that he's using is coming from the promoter. So he's trusting a promoter, by the sounds of it, at least anyway. Unless Jay Jimenez wanted to make sure this fight didn't happen either. We don't know, because as we're hearing, it was Jay Jimenez who told Eddie Hearn that at the time, was it 6.5, 7 weeks, wasn't long enough. And already they've wasted over a week now. Okay, but as it turned out with Luis Ortiz, he's always in training. He's always ready, which is what I said to you guys a few days ago. So when Jay Jimenez said this to Eddie Hearn, it didn't quite sit right with me, because even Deontay Wilder said, Luis Ortiz is like a gym rat. He's always in the gym. He's always ready for that call. And at 40 years old, you would think any kind of offer that comes from Anthony Joshua, he would accept. Because what's he going to do? Obviously, he's going to wait around for Wilder to rematch him for another 500 grand, which is what he got for the first fight. Is he going to fight another Razvan Kajanu for 50 to 100 grand maybe on the undercard? No, this was his golden ticket. Luis Ortiz, I don't know how many fights that he has left. And of course, he needs to also remember as well, Jay Jimenez needs to remember this. Luis Ortiz trainer and Luis Ortiz need to remember this, as Bruce Vane quite clearly pointed out, that Al Heyman does not have Luis Ortiz in his long-term plans. Why? Because he's 40 years old. What kind of long-term plans could you possibly have? Okay. Now, this is what Caicedo carried on with. Okay, and this is where he gets pretty angry. So this is what Luis Ortiz trainer Caicedo had to say. So I'm reading that Luis was on holiday. Unless a vacation for Luis means spending time in a different part of the gym, I don't know where anyone got that information from. His kids are in school. Where the hell is he going to go by himself? The only time he took time off is when I had to force him to take a staycation around Easter when his kids had a break from school. Even then, he was still at the track every morning like he always is. He's still jumping rope every day. He's always training, and he's always ready for a fight. For Joshua, sure, we'd love an 8 to 12 week camp, but we could get ready in 5 if the fight was signed today. An opportunity like this to make whatever Eddie is offering, 7, 8 million, you grab it. But having said that, Eddie Hearn offering it and then putting it in writing are two different things. I personally believe that we would have seen an upside-down contract just to stall and renegotiate. Most fighters won't take a fight until they've signed a contract. There's a lot of things you can do with a contract to not make the fight happen. I'm upset that they didn't consult me more than they did, and they didn't take my opinion to heart. I'm around Luis every day. If we're saying we're ready, take the money and the fight, you accept the damn offer. And Eddie to show you a contract saying it's real. For now, we will continue training, because hopefully we are going to get the Wilder fight if Wilder does a job against Dominic Brazil on May the 18th. And we get the rematch later this year. But let me be clear, and this is Luis' exact place on this subject. If Eddie Hearn shows us a real contract with no games, we would gladly take that fight, whether June the 1st or after that. So that is Herman Caicedo's statement. As you can see, he's quite angry that his team wasn't keeping him in the loop. Now, I know I bumbled a couple of words there, but his team just kept him out of the loop. Luis Ortiz and his trainer didn't know that there was an offer of 7 or 8 million, whatever it may be. They didn't know. And no matter what the offer was, he's saying, we would have took it. Of course we'd take it. There's 5 weeks left until June the 1st. We'll take it. We're already in the gym. We're already training. No problem. All we've got to do is up it a bit more. Up the tempo a bit more. We'll take that fight. Serious money. Let's do it. Because him and Luis Ortiz, they know exactly what me and you and everybody else have been saying, which is this is last chance saloon. He ain't going to get an offer like this again. Anthony Joshua is going to be backdated with mandatories. This is probably his last one for the next 18 months to 2 years of a voluntary. And unless Luis Ortiz can somehow get himself into a mandatory situation by defeating maybe a Usyk or defeating a Dillian White or defeating a Kubrat Pulev, he ain't getting no Anthony Joshua fight. His only other option is to fight Deontay Wilder, which is probably going to be for peanuts again, and get that belt and then undisputed against Joshua. There's no voluntaries for him, and quite clearly he's angry that his team managed to drop the ball. Now, of course, he is saying that Eddie Hearn saying this, but then putting it into a contract are two different things. Well, Eddie Hearn did say that he will expose Team Ortiz, as in Jay Jimenez and the promoter, by showing the world in black and white what was sent, what was offered. So it is in black and white. All it needs to do was be transferred onto a contract form and sent off. Don't you think that Eddie Hearn would have made sure to get this fight? Why would they want to stall it for? Anthony Joshua needs to know, is he fighting? Who's he fighting? So they're not going to stall it. Now, of course, he is trying to save a little face for his team. He doesn't want to go too much into his own team because at the end of the day, he's employing them and he has a good relationship with them. I'm sure he does. But quite clearly, he's angry that his team, especially the promoter, dropped the ball big time. Is it because his promoter wants him to go fight Deontay Wilder next? Who knows? Has Al Heyman told the promoter, don't accept that deal? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? But I would probably imagine if Luis Ortiz does not get this fight, that he's probably going to end up creating some kind of revolution over there at the PBC. And who knows, maybe exposing some of the things that a lot of us suspected going on, which is they just want in-house fights and they're blocking fighters who are allegedly free agents from going elsewhere to earn serious amounts of money. Yep, the Muhammad Ali Act could well have to kick in at times. So maybe Luis Ortiz is going to be the front runner to start off what a lot of people suspect. But either way, I think that Luis Ortiz, he's going to be angry. And quite clearly, whoever he's going to be fighting next, he's not going to be motivated for. How could they compensate him? How can they? And I would imagine that he's probably going to fire the promoter now. If he had any kind of sense, he probably would. Because he's just ruined a deal by turning down, what, 7 or 8 million or whatever it is that it's being offered. Turned it down, flat offered, called it a lowball offer. A guy who, no disrespect, is 40 years old, had a world title opportunity and got knocked out. Listen, he gave a great account of himself in that fight. But either way, that is the fact of it. He did lose that fight. Your stock doesn't go up when you lose a fight. Yes, he rattled Wilder. Of course he did. Plenty of people have rattled Wilder. Eric Molina rattled Wilder. Plenty of people have. So this was his last opportunity and his team messed it up. And quite clearly, he's very, very angry about it. Can this deal still be saved? Or has it gone too late now? If Eddie Hearn ends up confirming Andy Ruiz or a Trevor Bryan or a Michael Hunter or someone else, who knows, I would fully expect Luis Ortiz to be kicking off with his team. Expect a few heads to be chopped. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. I'll put the article in the description box for you guys to go have a read. And of course, click on the video that is about to pop up any second now to have a watch for what Jay Jimenez had to say. And of course, keeping up to date with everything that's been going on with Anthony Joshua versus Luis Ortiz, and of course other potential opponents. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.